So the day has come. We finally have Disney Plus, but more importantly, as a Star Wars fan, we have our very first live-action Star Wars television show in The Mandalorian. Was it worth the hype? Is it going to bring the fandom back together? We're going to talk about that and much more. Chapter 1 of The Mandalorian. A Mandalorian bounty hunter tracks a target for a well-paying client. Hey everybody, Elliot here today to talk about the very first episode, Chapter 1 of The Mandalorian. I'm so excited to talk about it with you all, but before we dive into that, definitely consider subscribing to our channel here. Hit that notification bell so you can stay up there with our content. And if you've seen the first episode of The Mandalorian, I would love to know what you're thinking of the episode, your theories, your thoughts, your pros, your cons of the episode. Let me know in the comments. It's a safe haven. This is for all fans, so definitely let's have some fun dialogue and some appropriate dialogue in the comments there. So first and foremost, I'm going to spend the first couple minutes just giving you my initial thoughts of the episode, some of my pros, some of my cons, without spoiling anything, because obviously there's been some people in the States that just haven't downloaded the app yet, or at work or at school, and there's obviously people overseas and in different countries that don't even have the platform yet, so I don't want to spoil too many things up top, but I will get into spoilers towards the end of the video, so that's just a little warning there. So let's just jump into the non-spoiler section here. So first initial thoughts, I just finished watching the episode about 30 minutes ago. No notes, just kind of going at it, freestyling here. I really enjoyed this episode. There were some criticisms that I'll touch on later in the this review here, but as far as the look, the feel, the vibe, I'm really enjoying it. This harkens back to the original Star Wars series, and I guess I should say this. I'm a fan of all things Star Wars. I'm not the biggest fan of some of the stuff that happens in the prequels, but I still appreciate them. I'm a fan of the new iteration of Star Wars, and I'm, of course, a huge fan of the OG Star Wars from George Lucas in the episodes 4, 5, and 6. And I haven't really dove into the comics, into the books, so I'm coming at The Mandalorian just being familiar with Boba Fett and his gear and doing research in the previous weeks as far as what The Mandalorian has to offer. But as far as what we get from this first episode, I think this is a show that's going to attract to all audiences, whether it be someone like me that loves the movies but haven't dove into the comics or the books, or someone that hasn't watched the animated series like me. I think this is going to be suited for everyone because they've done such a good job in this first episode of establishing this world. It feels so refreshing to be in this universe for an extended amount of time, not just 2 hours or over a sequence of movies, but being in this universe with this particular character over 8 hours, 10 hours is so refreshing. And also, practical effects make such a big difference, not in just the Star Wars universe, just in action, sci-fi, genres in general. It's so refreshing when you can live and breathe the creatures and these things are being brought to life. And yes, there are some CGI moments, obviously, because it takes place in space, but it was just so cool to see the practical effects of some of the creatures and this different species. It was just so cool. And I think that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, who has directed this, the first episode, and obviously has a big part into the overall series. And again, I haven't dove into the animated series like I know he handles, but I know he's an apprentice of George Lucas, and you can see that from this first episode. He knows how to bring those vibes back. Of course, this series takes place after 5 years after the Return of the Jedi, and you get those vibes and those feels again based on the practical effects, the wide angle shots, the way that the battles take place. So I think that Dave Filoni did a great job of directing this episode, and I thought that Jon Favreau did a great job writing the episode. And there are some criticisms that I'll touch on a little bit later in my spoiler territory. But as far as negatives, I'll say that the pacing was a little different in the middle of the episode. The beginning of the episode has some cool sequences, like the very first kind of bounty, him capturing someone, but it had a character that I wasn't really vibing with, and when the episode continued and went on, I'm just like, oh, that felt like a different episode, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But just the first initial thoughts, I really enjoyed it. I didn't necessarily say I would love it and I'm just like mind blown, but I really, really enjoyed this episode. And again, it was the look, the vibe, the feel, the score was really great. The intro was interesting, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But overall thoughts, I really enjoyed this first episode. So that's the non-spoiler portion of this video here. Now let's jump into the spoilers. Just jump into the very end. We got a Yoda creature, Yoda species baby, and I'm so interested to see where that goes. But let's rewind to the beginning of the episode, as I talked about in my non-spoiler criticisms. that character, that bluefish character, it was, the episode starts off with the Mandalorian, he's badass, he's walking to this bar, very Western vibes, but then he, picks up his bounty, he takes out the guy gets chopped in half, we saw that in the trailer, very kind of, very dark themes going on there, but, he gets the guy, captures him, in the back and forth, but not necessarily back and forth, because the Mandalorian's responding to this character, but not, he's not having full length conversation with it. He's just saying, yes, no, very one-liners, very, very 80s kind of action vibes where we get these one-liners from these badass characters. But, that blue guy was just, I don't want to say annoying, and kind of reminded me a little bit of the prequel stuff, but it just felt so different from the rest of the episode, because it was like the jokes really weren't landing for me, and I was just like, oh, this is where we're going. But obviously, as the episode progresses and continues to go on, it got a little bit more serious, and it got a little bit more, the jokes that did land later in the episode felt a little bit more organic, where I felt like that blue character was just kind of mixed in and was, yes, if you watch the original series, there are kind of those corny, cheesy jokes, but it just didn't vibe well with me for the rest of the episode. That was just my minor criticism that I have with the episode there. And also the pacing, as I had mentioned, in the second and the third act kind of was just a little bit slower, but definitely, as the episode progresses, we get, the Mandalorian, he has this mission. He doesn't know much about the mission other than it's a 50-year-old person that he's going to capture. We get a little bit of a flashback when he's going to, retrieve more armor, which was really badass. Again, for someone that isn't too familiar with the Mandalorian, haven't read the books or the comics, they take a lot of pride in their costumes and their armor, and it seems like the thing that young lady, I assume was a lady, it might be a man, but I thought it was a lady that made for them, is very important to them as far as their armor, very similar to what Boba Fett had, who stole their armor in the Mandalorian. So I'm loving that, and very interested to see this backstory that we got a little briefly there, when it seemed like it was him as a child and how it kind of affects him. And we didn't get the mask reveal. He did not take off his mask in this first episode. Very interesting there to see if we're going to actually see Pedro, his face, and his maybe family and friends, things of that nature. But we get all that. But then the best part for the episode for me was definitely that third act when we meet Taika Waititi's Imperial droid, and it was kind of cool to see Taika do something a little bit different, not as comedic as we're used to seeing him. And obviously he dies or gets shot at the head, but I'm pretty sure we're going to get more Taika Waititi's Imperial droid as the season goes by. But I thought that whole sequence was really well done. Again, going back to what I really love was the vibe that we got from this episode, and going back and harkens to the old original Star Wars with the battle that we get there. But the biggest reveal has been talked about for the last couple of weeks. There's a WTF moment, a jaw-dropping moment in this episode, and that is we get a Yoda creature. Not necessarily, it wasn't Yoda, but it was his species. And obviously, they age a lot differently than other species. It's a 50-year-old baby. What does that mean? Is it related to Yoda? It seems like, I think it looks like a girl creature. It could be a male. I'm not too sure there. Let me know in the comments. And also, if you've read the comics of the book and you know exactly what might be happening, I would love to know your theories. But what does this mean? He has a little bit of heart for the baby because he didn't kill the baby. We see a little bit more personality from Pedro Pascal's The Mandalorian, because we didn't really get that much from him in this first episode. But he has some heart. He obviously cares for young baby creature Yoda's creatures there, so it'll be interesting to see where that plays out, and does this interfere with his bounty, because obviously they said they wanted him to terminate the Yoda creature, which kind of alludes to the whole state of the Empire. They probably don't want any Jedis, they want to take him out as babies, so we'll see how that plays out. But again, now that we're in the spoilers, I really didn't like the first, that the interacting with that blue creature, but as the episode went by, the score, the look, the feel, the practical effects, the lore, the mythology, everything that we're getting so far. Nick Nolte's character I thought was really well. I had spoken, that was a really good character, and I'm interested to see more of him, and as well as just the journey that we're going on in this universe. So I'm on board again. I didn't love this episode, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to see Friday's episode. And you all can expect a review here on Movie Files every week, talking about the latest episode of The Mandalorian. I'm so excited to do a review for this show, and I'm excited to meet more people on our channel that love Star Wars just as much as I do, leading into Rise of Skywalker. So like and share this video. Comment below your thoughts on The Mandalorian. Let me know your theories. Let me know what you're thinking and what you're hoping to see in the future in the comment section. Subscribe to our channel. Keep an eye out for some more Disney Plus content I'm going to release today and on the next couple days in regards to movies and other shows. So there you have it. That's my review. Keep an eye out for some more videos coming pretty soon. Thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you on the next one.